What's splashin'? Welcome to season 9, episode 6 of Siren Sundays with me, your host, Lashanti the Siren. And today's guest is Rashema Ingraham, the executive director of Waterkeepers Bahamas. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and so ready to get in.
Definitely. I am super excited as well. And as we were talking about it earlier, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to ask you these questions on the show because now I want to know the answers, but I definitely didn't want to spoil it. So super happy to have you dive right in. Can you let us know, what is sort of like your education and experiential background and the career path that has led you to this position today?
I'd like to say I've moved all over the place just trying to get as much as I can from the organizations that I worked in. And it's really helped me with where I am today. But it all started with just that high school background and having a biology teacher who said, "Hey, guys, you're so finished with the BGCSEs, you have absolutely nothing to do. We are in our 12th grade and we need to find a way to fill that time, right? So what she did was she created this environmental outdoor classroom, and that was the first time that we've ever really heard of it. And she took us on field trips all over Grand Bahama Island, and that really inspired me to work with a nature-based major. But unfortunately, I went to COB, which at the time was limited with all of those nature-based courses. So I said, why not meteorology? But even that was limited at COB, so I ended up going into like the ecotourism management pathway. And that really helped to set it off for me where I was still able to be outside, still able to talk about some policies, build in some programs, and then focus on our number one industry, right, which is tourism, bringing people and nature together. And it's still what I do today. It's just a different face of it. And I may not have been in the tourism industry, but really working with a law firm and understanding the law that's applied in our country really helped to kind of give me the grounding I needed to work with Waterkeeper Bahamas. Know what the policies are, know where there are chances of us improving the law to protect the environment and protect the people. And so that's really which kind of helped to guide me where I am, that outdoor classroom in grade 12.
That's exciting. And I actually didn't know that. I always love when I learn about things on the show. I had no idea that you had law background. So I'm sure that is super helpful for a lot of the work that you do at Waterkeepers Bahamas. And so this is the perfect time to explain, well, what is Waterkeepers Bahamas?
Waterkeepers Bahamas is an environmental organization that's an affiliate member of Waterkeeper Alliance. Waterkeeper Alliance is a global advocacy group. So we have members and affiliates all over the world in over 40 countries. So before we even started this, there are three waterkeepers. One you may know very well, Uncle Joe, Joseph Dabble, who I believe is listening in,
Yes, yes.
myself, and so it's not only us. There are water keepers in parts of Africa, in Australia, in Canada, in the Central Americas, South Americas, all over the place. There's a Rashema, there's a Joe Javo that make up this number of really um, educating, advocating for, and inspiring people to protect our waters for swimmable, fishable, and drinkable uses.
I love that. Swimmable, fishable, and drinkable. And I know you threw around the word advocacy, and I wondered if you could tell us a bit about, the importance of advocacy and what is the type of advocacy work that has been done so far with Waterkeepers Bahamas.
So there have been quiet and loud advocacy efforts by Waterkeepers Bahamas as well as some of our partners, where we're saying that we need to protect these resources. We have developments that are happening where at times developments need to hear the other voices that are speaking or invite other voices to the table. And so that's what advocacy is for us, like finding the balance between all of the people who need to be heard, and then expressing the importance of preserving and protecting certain things. So some of the efforts that we've been working on, we've been working closely with Brief, with Catherine and McKinney Lambert, who is a superpower hero, um,
Mm-hmm.
on working as a country to, try to focus renewable energies rather than on fossil fuels, and move away from the dependency of fossil fuels. So for the last 3 years, we've been working together on how do we now, um, as a country, see the beauty in 360 days of sunshine and solar powers and wind energy and use those types of energies rather than fossil fuels energy. So that's the type of advocacy we're talking about. How do we inspire people to do better and to use the resources they have rather than to um, fuel or to work in a negative way to speed up climate change?
Definitely. And I know and throughout my time in conservation in the Bahamas, advocacy is not something that you see conservationists doing enough. And so it's really nice to hear that, this organization is out there doing that. And I'm curious, I'm sorry if I missed it when you said it. How long has Waterkeepers Bahamas been here in the country?
Waterkeepers Bahamas has been uh, around since 2013. Well, the community of the Bahamas has really been seeing us over the last, I would say, 5 years. But during that time, we've been having our growing pains and really establishing ourselves, really building our programs and our foundations. Like I said, one of the things that we have been focusing on, every waterkeeper around the world focuses on water quality management and how do we teach the community about what to look out for, whether it's fresh water, whether it's water at your beaches, conditions that you should be concerned about. And so building those types of programs to set the baseline for the work that we do. And then moving from that to other branches of now that we've built that water quality program, now how do we build other programs that tie into that? So you've really been seeing us very active now in the community with maybe our Waterkeeper Cadet program. So we've had a few of our students who have matriculated from partners like Earth Care moving into our programs and moving to Brief or some of our other partners like the BNT. So we've, as a community, trained certain types of eco-friendly or eco-conscious students. And then also our mangrove restoration program, which many of you have been hearing about, where it still ties back to swimmable, fishable, and drinkable water because a healthy mangrove means that there's a healthy nursery for fish, right? Not only that, it's a vital ecosystem that's needed to help to purify the water, especially from runoff or storm surges. So it all ties back to those same three things. So now building the programs that kind of hit on those three areas that Waterkeepers focuses on: swim, drink, and fish.
Awesome. I know I am curious, what inspired you to want to bring this branch of Waterkeepers Alliance to the Bahamas?
Just seeing the potential that its founders had, right? Where Waterkeeper Alliance, when they started off, it didn't start off from a group of, you know, when I say educated people, I mean persons with degrees, doctorate degrees or master's degrees. There were a group of fishermen who were working in the Hudson who saw the development of the industrial area building over time where those industrial companies weren't paying attention to the quality of the water based on their runoff from their facilities. So the Hudson Bay was being impacted by that. And the fishermen's lives were being impacted by that because now it reduced the amount of fish population in the Hudson Bay. And they realized that if they were quiet about it, they would lose their jobs, they would lose their livelihoods, and a part of their culture would be taken away from them through their silence. They decided to speak out about it. They decided to say, how do we come together as a group to make a difference? And I think when the opportunity presented itself in the Bahamas for persons like myself, persons like Uncle Joe, to want to do something similar to what the Hudson Bay fishermen did, we didn't want to recreate a wheel. We wanted to help build off of something that worked before. And Waterkeeper Alliance, having that network of resources, of people, of policies, of action plans that were already proven to be effective was something that we wanted to bring to the country so that we weren't just working from scratch, but we had something to build on. We had the support of waterkeepers from around the world to learn from their lessons, bring it home, and make it a home based, home inspired work of action for us to make a difference.
So, how close do you work with fishermen here in the Bahamas?
Uh, we try to work with them as much as we can with our projects. They've been working with us with our mangrove restoration project. So like fishermen are taking us out to spots where, they go for either putting their traps or they know the area better. So like when we are on boats with them, like they're swerving and curving and they know exactly where the grass is. And I'm like, how did you see that? Because they're always out there. Like Shervin Tate in East Grand Bahama, Denver in Bimini. Like these are people who we're working with all the time who really know um, the lay of the sea, right? Not the lay of the land, but of the sea because they're always out there. But learning from them, knowing where the hot spots are, knowing the changes in like bonefish in certain areas, knowing the changes of whether or not there's like algae buildup, like they know it. We have to ask them questions, and they're always willing to give us the answers that we need. So we're
That's
working with them as much as we can. We definitely would want to work with as many or all of them, but we're covering the ground that we need to cover. I always tell people the greatest way to bite into an elephant is one bite at a time. Not try to eat it away all at once.
Mhm. Definitely. Every time I hear that analogy, I always laugh. It's just the thought of, and as you say, like it's a huge elephant. Don't try to eat it all in one day. But it does bring me to the question of challenges. So, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges right now that you've encountered throughout your journey with Waterkeepers Bahamas?
I would say one of the biggest challenges for us would definitely be how do we keep these programs going? So funding has always been a huge challenge for, I'm sure, every NGO or NPO in the Bahamas, right?
Mhm.
Because we're definitely doing these things because we're passionate about it or we see where there's an opportunity for change. But how do we fund these programs, these initiatives, these campaigns so that we can see the end result? So that's definitely been one of those challenges. And then working on a plan of action that allows us to get into the spaces that we need to get into in order to make a difference. And so really knowing how and when to push and to pull and to stay still. And just being able to know how to network with the right people um, has been a challenge because sometimes it takes, not sometimes, it takes a long time to get into the right space. And so when I first started doing this work, like full on, it was difficult to be able to have a voice
Mhm.
because uh, at the time the industry or the nonprofit world was built from the major NGOs in the country, right? So the
Mhm.
smaller NGOs had a really difficult time of filtering through to be able to be a part of the table and those conversations. So those were the challenges at the time, but I've seen the shift where it's like collaborative and unified, especially with the NGOs, and I'm thankful for that. Where it's not a major challenge, but I would like to see us work together more. Um, I know that we have the Beans group, right, where we share ideas there. So things like that are removing some of those barriers that I may have experienced or others may have experienced in the past. And
Definitely. I
so
think,
even that,
no, no, continue. Even
go
that
ahead.
helps.
I was going to say, even that helps with creating better ways of getting funding, right? Because now we're
Mhm.
collaborating more. We can put so many of our strengths into one basket to make a wholesome proposal for funding opportunities.
I was just going to emphasize that importance of collaboration because you're even starting to see a lot of funders, a lot of big foundations looking for that. Like, yes, this one NGO is big and can do a lot, but when they see that there's like this reach and this spread across the country with these smaller NGOs, you're more likely to get the funding. It's just something about collaboration that I think just like rings bells in people's head. And it's interesting that you say that you guys had a hard time in the beginning because I have noticed that you said you guys were started in 2013, but you're right. Like the last 5 years is really when people started like, oh yeah, I know Waterkeepers Bahamas. Like it's really starting to build some traction. So it's so nice to see that you guys are having great movement and growth into the sector and really getting a decent sized seat at the table, I would say. But I did want to ask, because I know you mentioned law a bit earlier. How would you say like your law and your tourism management background has kind of helped you in your role at Waterkeepers Bahamas?
I think it's the piece of the puzzle that was absolutely necessary for me to be in the position that I'm in now. Because for me, with tourism as my background, I wanted to be a part of that group of people who were um, putting in policies or implementing programs for the protection of our natural resources so that we always have the tourists coming to our country or to our islands for a particular thing. To experience nature, to experience our mangroves, to go diving in our waters, um, to be able to, like sunbathe on the beach, do all of these things that they want to do when they go to exotic places. So understanding what the product is, understanding the stakeholders who make up the tourism product in the Bahamas was definitely something very important for me to have insight on, and then understanding the law. So now going back to my time at Calendars, understanding the law, knowing the environmental suite that did not exist that now exists now, and knowing how our, our laws are built, knowing that there are regulations that are attached to the act, that complement the act, and you can look at one without looking at the other, and then looking at other acts that complement what we have as our Environmental Protection and Planning Act now. Um, just being able to know how to interpret those. So when we're building programs, right, we're
Yep.
building programs that are complementary to the law, or if we see things that are happening contrary to, we know who to write to, how to write to them, and what to reference.
I love that. And you hit every single nail on the head that I was hoping to hear because I think a lot of times people in conservation, we have a lot of scientists, we have a lot of like communications people, but we do not have a lot of people who can actually read a law or read a regulation or read an act and understand what that means. And even when it comes time, as you've seen, even through the Beings group, sometimes people are saying, hey, well, this is a new regulation or policy being drafted, and a lot of times people look at that and they're kind of like, it looks fine. But if you don't have that right eye to understand how just little words and how the language can really affect what the real meaning of a policy is, a lot of times things are passed and realize, oh, wait, there's this little loophole here because the words weren't right or the language is incorrect. So it's important to have people like you working in conservation.
I think like every conservation organization should have someone on their team who either has, I mean, even if you get as simple as a paralegal study or certification,
Mhm.
or for Ian's or another group to say, let's have a workshop
Yeah.
where we understand policy a little bit better, where we could work together on, breaking it down so that when we're asked to review, right? Because, they only give us like a 2 weeks or 30 days to review something, and then it closes. So
Yeah.
we know how to maximize that time.
Hmm. And we know directly who to go to help maximize that
Yeah.
time. So, I think that just paints such a great example of how coming from like interdisciplinary backgrounds is so beneficial, not only just for the conservation sector, but just for the progression of our country. Like, not everybody needs to be a fisherman, not everybody needs to work in tourism to help see the country move forward. So, super important, and very happy to have you in our sector. But I am interested, to that same note, what kind of advice would you give someone who, sees you and says, wow, I want to be like Rashema? What sort of maybe steps would you recommend them take as far as pursuing education or training to really impact what's needed in the field?
I would definitely say don't be like Rashima, be better than her. But also pay attention to what's being said and done in places that matter, like the University of the Bahamas, just paying attention to what their union of students are doing, what they're talking about, the workshops that they're having. They had the One World, the Youth Forum this year and last year. Like, those discussions are so important. Um, Taking advantage of opportunities like internships or summer employment, just so you get in. You may have absolutely no idea what it's all about, but just getting into those places, like a Coral Vita or Blue Action Lab in the Bahamas, even a dive shop, just something different rather than always, like maybe go into the government program, but, trying to venture outside and do something just unusual. It could be life changing for anybody. So I wouldn't even say those who want to do like an environmentally focused career. I'm talking about every and anybody. Also take advantage of the these student programs that we have. I know when I was in school, we had junior achievement, we had interact club, we had, I mean, and they're still around today, but for us now, we have navigators, we have our youth environmental ambassador program. Brief has its best, the scholars program. Like, there are so many opportunities now where we see young Bahamians are not taking advantage of those opportunities, and we would like to see so much more of that. Even if you stay, like, when we see a lot of high school students, they're doing their community service hours, right? So they're only doing their community service hours to get the hours needed to graduate. And I just wish they would see beyond that. So yes, work at the Humane Society. Yes, do a beach cleanup. But when you're doing these things, you know, at least let's look happier about it. Ask questions. Um, just because you'll never ever get that opportunity again, and just asking one simple question may change your life, and
Honestly,
help you out. Like, we have the Chevenings program, um, another major opportunity for young people to want to, or to be inspired or get a degree. So I would just definitely say ask any question. It's not a silly question. It's not a simple question. It's a question, and there's an answer attached to it. So just ask it.
yeah, I love that advice, especially because I know growing up, I was always that kid, and I'm still that adult that always has a question. Like, you could say something super straightforward, and I would still ask a question. And a lot of times it's kind of met with like a, okay, Lashanti, another question. But sometimes, and I feel like it's worth it when these moments happen where that one question triggers just a chain of thoughts and a new idea, some
Right.
innovation, a new way to do something, or a new way to even just think and approach a situation. So yes, I always tell people, ask as many questions as possible. And I'll use this opportunity to encourage people to ask any questions you'd like right now, in the chat to Rashima, if you have any in particular. But I am curious, during your time, before you started working, was there an internship or some sort of volunteering that you did that you think kind of impacted your life?
Yeah. So I definitely looked at the work that I did with Keep Grandma McLean Community. I started a project on on Grand Bahama, and I was introduced to Keep Grand Bahama Clean, and that reminded me of wanting to do work where I wanted it to be community involved and action oriented. Um, to say, let's be a litter free island or even a litter free city, right? Remember,
Mhm.
we say small bite, a litter free city that inspires the island to be, a little bit more cleanlier or aware of reducing its litter. So definitely to keep Grandmama clean, the work that I've been doing with them since 2012 has definitely kept me motivated to stay community based. Um, I think GGYA too, right? So I don't know how kids feel about GGYA these days, but when I asked them, I say, "You weren't in GGYA, right?" I could tell. Not you, not you. But I
No, I
asked
did the
kids
same thing.
these
I
questions.
asked, like, what did you guys do
How
GGYA? Like,
that
did you
you
do
weren't
JA? Like,
GGYA?
did you do something? Like,
But definitely GGYA, because why don't you know north, south, east, or west? Why don't you know like how to use a map or a compass? Like these are basic things that you should know, or not even should know, but you know it it should be a requirement. Um, but also understanding like how important and how refreshing it is to go for a walk or walk as a team. So definitely that GDYA experience was good for me. I did not do goal. I know that I can still do my goal. Um, but yeah, I would not give up or trade in that experience at all. So those two really help to um, ground me and keep me centered with nature.
definitely. I think, and just to emphasize again, the importance of just join that club, go to that activity, go to that event, ask those questions because you just never know what may even inspire you to take a career path that you would have never thought of taking before. And I know I definitely always remember my experience with JA, which being in conservation now, a lot of people will be like, oh, well, JA is very business focused. But I think just the network and the opportunities to be able to do public speaking, understanding commerce, like just, figuring out how the world works. We live in a capitalist world was definitely something that I would never trade in. And I always wish that there were other internships that I've seen that I wish that I had done because I would have been miles ahead. And I think it's so important that you the saying of whole like your 20s are for learning not earning, which kind of sucks because you want to be able to make money, but the information that you gain, the experiences that you gain are just so valuable to your
Yeah,
life. I look back and I smile. Like I wasn't making any money. I was making like $1 an hour in JA, but it was just so impactful that I cherish them for the rest of my life. So definitely. But
yeah.
I am curious, on the same note of this internships topic, how can viewers or anybody who maybe will hear and listen to this later get involved with some of the work that Waterkeepers Bahamas is doing? Do you guys have internships? Do you do volunteer programs? Or do you offer mentorships to people who are interested?
We do a little bit of all of that, right? So we have been running our um, summer uh, internship, and I would recommend for anyone who's interested, whether you're the parent, the godparent, um, you're the guardian, or the student who's interested, follow us or just like visit our website. But definitely, if you follow us, send us a message and ask to be added to our mailing list so that that information is sent to you when it's ready and available. Uh, I've seen so many great students work in our summer program and either gone off to school or gone right into the industry. And it's such a good thing to look at them and just look from a distance, be like, like, I'm so glad that they took advantage of that opportunity. Um, so you almost feel like you're building a community, right? Like, and you're seeing the work grow over time and over time. Some of the names I can't remember. I don't know how my like grade 3 and 4 teacher still remembers my name, but Like I can't remember everybody's name, but I definitely remember faces.
Yeah.
We also have our youth programs that I would always recommend people ask questions about. Like we have, like I said, the Youth Environmental Ambassador Program. And in order to get into our cadet program, you would have to go through that program first because it's like an intro course to the extended course. And the cadet program is like an introduction to like some of the research, getting you to understand methodology a little bit better. And then we always encourage our cadets to apply for brief BESS
Yes.
program. Yeah. And then everything will connect, right? So you
Hmm.
started with our YA program, and it was just the intro, and then we introduce you to research concepts, and then you go into briefs program, and after that, the sky is the limit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
but definitely follow us. We're on social media. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and I think we're on TikTok too. I just found this out on Friday.
Ooh,
But we're on TikTok. But you can tell I am not controlling
keeping
that.
up with the times. I definitely,
And
I'm
then definitely our
painfully aware.
website. I think that you posted it in the chat,
Yeah.
www.waterkeepersbahamas.com.
Yes, and I know I'm not ready to let you go yet. I do have two more questions for you, and so far I don't see any in the chat. But who would you say is somebody in the sector, whether they're local or international, that inspires you, and why?
I think if we were to say it's who who has many faces.
Hmm.
Um, so there are so many Bahamian, strong Bahamian conservation and environmental women that inspire me. And I want to call off some names, and I'm so afraid of calling off names because I get a little bit of motivation from each one of them. Like Alana Bellicott, like she is just oh, like she is the
Rock
superpower. Lakeisha in the same role, just the fact that she's a quiet storm for me. Kazarina McKinney Lambert, you know, she remembers everything. She reads everything. Like, how does she do that? I don't know. Crystal Ambrose, um, just watching Crystal, like, I think it might have been about 7 years ago, just watching her grow that um, plastics movement to where it is now. I was just so inspired just watching her do that, watching her do a thing. Krista Sherman. So like I say, it's like an octopus, an octopus of like very strong Indian women. Krista, I mean, she's just like focused on the research, and those methods and those matrices and putting it all together and turning it into words for people to understand. And then, of course, you, because you never gave up on what it is that you wanted this program to be, getting voices out there and having them heard, giving them the space to be able to do that. Like so many great Bahamian women that I take a little bit from and I'm inspired by every day.
Yeah, and I'm definitely inspired by you. And even just having this episode, I feel even more inspired knowing some of your background and some of the real work and time that you've put in to Waterkeepers Bahamas and the work that's to come. I know there's so much more to come from Waterkeepers Bahamas, and thank you so much for naming me as well. But I'm curious if there's any sort of mantra or quote that you live by, just as like a final thought that you'd want to share with viewers to leave just a bit of inspiration.
So the tag on my personal email is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But always look at people as a part of you, right? Um, and knowing that it's the function of the whole. So that's what I go by every day. I want people. I want to see myself in people, and I want people to see me in them. So just looking
Or
at
give you
them as part of God. Yeah. Hmm?
That's you gave me goosebumps. Definitely, like we're all a part of the same world, and we all need to treat each other accordingly. Like you, how you would want yourself treated, you should treat others. I love that. That I can't even add to that. Awesome. And again, I don't see any questions in the chat, but I do want to give this opportunity for you to tell us about any sort of other projects that are upcoming. Like, is there any events or anything we need to look out for with Waterkeepers Bahamas?
Yeah, so we have our mangrove outplanting days. This is going to be our second season of our outplanting. We've been working with the forestry unit. We've been working with Blue Action Lab called PETA, Earth Care. Definitely in the last year, we've um, joined with the Perry Institute of Marine Sciences and Bahamas Bonefish and Tarpon Trust to form the Bahamas Mangrove Alliance. Really, remember we talked about collaboration, right? So like all of these projects, all of these groups coming together, collaborating together to really make a big change, make a difference with our mangrove restoration efforts. But Waterkeepers Bahamas has two outplanting days where we're inviting everyone. If you want to fly in, you make it a vacation, you come because we need all hands on deck. It's November 18th is the first one, and then December 2nd is our second day. We're looking for everyone to be a part of it. It's gonna be fun. It's always fun. Nothing we do is not fun. Yeah. So that's definitely we like to invite. Oh.
No, go ahead.
So like we always tell people like Rotary, if you want to bring your club out, bring your club out. Youth church groups, if you want to bring them out, bring them out. Just find a way to just rally up people. So if you want to bring a family over, if you have a group of friends who are in a book club, a sisterhood, you just need an opportunity to give back, to touch Mother Earth, to do something that makes you feel inspired. Definitely do it with us November 18th and December 2nd.
I definitely feel like I should send out a call to action to somebody with a plane or a little private jet to come take a crew of us from Nassau so we could fly in and do this. We need more rich conservationists to contribute to some of our efforts, or a boat, whichever one is more feasible.
Right.
But definitely, and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of people out to that event. And I look forward to seeing and hearing more from Waterkeepers Bahamas. And I want to just thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful Sunday afternoon. I wish you could be here with us later for the event, but I look forward to seeing you next week at the GCFI conference.
Yes, I'm excited about it. I'll see you then. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you for having. I'm so happy I finally got to have you, and thank you to all my viewers for riding another wave with us on Siren Sundays. Hope to see you next Sunday.